President Trump's border czar in Albany this week telling Democrats to cooperate with immigration enforcement. 7 News reporter Gage Kilborn has more, including how Tom Homan says a state law is standing in the way of getting his job done.
New York State, you got to change the sanctuary status. If you don't, get out of the way because we're going to do our job.
Senior advisor and border czar to President Trump and West Carthage native Tom Homan stood with state Republican lawmakers in Albany Wednesday. The conversation focused on New York's 2019 Greenlight law, which allows anyone 16 and older to apply for their learner's permit and/or driver's license, regardless of their citizenship or lawful status in the United States. Under Governor Cuomo, the law aimed to make the road safer because a license would let an immigrant get insurance. Republicans, though, say the law hurts the efforts of federal agents.
That law also prohibits local and state law enforcement from coordinating with any federal agencies having to do with immigration.
Meaning, ICE agents can't enter local jails to talk with immigrants for investigations. Homan calls it an attack on immigration enforcement, and it could mean more ICE agents in New York State, not fewer.
Why not give access ICE to that person so when you're done with them, we can have them and do our job? Because releasing a public safety threat back in the public is just stupid.
State Republicans are hoping for legislation to pass to do away with the law.
It would waive the Greenlight law, and it would allow, again, that communication. That we are asking, the Albany Democrats are requiring by law our federal partners to operate blind.
7 News reached out to Democrat representatives on the state level, but we didn't hear back. Gage Kilborn, 7 News.